Hello, everyone. This is Davey McNally. Noah Tremblay and I are the co-chairs of the Accessibility Committee for the Athens County Board of Developmental, or Athens County City. Woo! It's been a long day already. The Athens City Commission on Disabilities Accessibility Committee. Everything that I do has a lot of names to it.
I'm sure long names, yes.
Yeah, we can go ahead and call ourselves to order and get started. So I did not send out meeting minutes from last meeting. So I would just like to table that and go through it the next accessibility committee meeting instead. And we have another special guest. We have Jessica Adine join us in the last meeting, and for this meeting we have David Riggs joining us from Athens City Code Enforcement. So we are just going to go ahead and kick that off. Yeah, so the questions that I have, or what's on the agenda for us today in regards to that, is go over city code and ways to work together on improving accessibility. Find ways to distribute information to local businesses and public spaces, especially using the readily available improvements document, and ways to get that done. So yeah, let's go ahead and open up the discussion. And David, we met about a year and a couple months ago, I believe.
That's correct, yeah.
And we had talked about, specifically businesses or public spaces that had some easily accomplishable accessibility improvements that could be done and ways to distribute that. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that. What else do people want to talk about today?
I think we were also trying to figure out ways to, with the code office, if there were things related to accessibility that could be looked at as part of the code office. So that was something that we put into the city plan. They asked for recommendations for the 2040 city plan. I think that's what it's called. So that's another thing that over time it would be good if we figured out how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing to kind of catch us up, David, that I may ask is just a brief explanation about when improvements or changes go up to the state building code office, and what those metrics are that make things go through different levels. I think it's like section 40 or title 40 or something like that.
Sure. So if I could just get started here and start talking, and if you guys, if I'm going the wrong direction or if you want some additional information, just let me know. As we all know, the ADA, Americans Disability Act of 2010, is the current standard that we go by, and it was to be enforced starting in December of 2012. And so if there's any problems, this is a federal law, and if there are any problems with it, then the federal the federal Department of Justice is supposed to respond to those. And that even happens down to the state level. If there are complaints or concerns that ADA has not been complied with, everybody seems to indicate that you have to file to the Department of Justice. There are communities, Cincinnati and Columbus, I know for sure, have their own commission, ADA commission, and they kind of take over for the federal government when there's issues in their municipality. We don't have that at this point. It may be something we want to talk about, having a compliance arm at the city of Athens. But at this point, we don't. So if we get a set of plans that come in, as you know, everybody has to comply starting in 2012. And it has to be a reasonable compliance. But if there's more than 15 people in a business, or if it's a business that's open to the public, then you have to reasonably comply to the ADA requirements. If you don't, Then, like I said, that would go through the Department of Justice. We get involved when you have a new building or a remodel going on. I don't know if you guys knew that the Ruby Tuesdays, I'll give an example. The Ruby Tuesdays on East State Street went out of business, and there'll be a new restaurant coming in. And we'll get an opportunity then to look at the drawings and plans to make sure that they become ADA compliant. We do that with the state building department in conjunction with the state building department. The state building department's primarily responsible for that. But we have like a backup in case. We'll look and see if there's any issues that the state missed that we can actually check on. So anytime you have a building that gets remodeled, that it'll need a state building permit. And at that point, the state of Ohio Department of Commerce will check to make sure that that structure and all the parking is ADA compliant. There are some cases where you have a minor remodel that does not require the state building department to come in and review it. That typically happens with beauty salons or something where you don't make a lot of interior changes. And in that case, it would be the responsibility of the code department to check to make sure that we've met, that they have met those requirements. And then, as Davey said, when you get into the big developments, the Title 41 site plans, those actually go through our office. They go through Jessica Adeen's office at the Engineering and Public Works, and they also go through the state and our planning commission as well. So there's a lot of people who get to check that. Seems to me that the breakdown sometimes come with these really small redevelopments that occur where the state really isn't involved very much or not at all. So that's my gap that I'm trying to fill and make sure we get corrected. We really don't have a lot in our Ohio Municipal Code or Athens Municipal Code with respect to enforcing ADA. It just says that we have to do it on the Title 41 permits. But we go a little bit farther than that, try to do stuff that's outside. Anytime we have a zoning permit, we try to look and make sure that they meet ADA compliance when it's required. So that's a few words. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
So go ahead. I have a question.
Diane.
So one question I have is that as a government entity, the city actually has responsibilities for making sure their own facilities and the city. Let's see, I'm trying to think how this works. There are a couple different guidelines that we should be following. One is, as a city, do we have more than 50 employees?
Yes.
We should be having people who are responsible for the ADA within our city government and making sure what we produce is ADA compliant. But we also have a responsibility under, as a city entity, to make sure what is in our public is accessible, both under the ADA and under the Rehab Act of 1973. So if we provide a program or service in our community and it's considered a public available to the public, then we have a responsibility for making sure that it's accessible, even if it's not necessarily even the structure, but that whatever the program is that's being offered needs to be in a place that is accessible. So we need a way locally to be able to respond, because as a city entity, we're responsible for that, to make sure what we have here is accessible.
Yeah, so if there is a problem, you would go to the Department of Justice. That's typically what you do, unless you had a local ADA compliance board, which I don't think the city of Athens does. We could actually change our code to require that, but at this point, I don't read that we have that ability, but just says you have to comply. It's what our code says. So we're always ready to look and make adjustments and changes to our code to make it work better for us. But I think where we are right now is we just it just says you have to comply, and there's no enforcement. There's no teeth behind it that I can find in our code. There is at the federal level. That's the Department of Justice.
So locally, I think one of the things that Diane is saying that with a local organization that there has to be an ADA compliance officer for a governmental organization over. Am I correct in something like that, Diane? And you're on mute.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and I think that they give some deference to, so you need to have somebody who's responsible for ADA with building, who's responsible for ADA with employment, who's responsible for ADA with communication and like technology. We need to have people within our city government who are the people that somebody would go to if there was an issue. So as a city, as a public entity, we are required under Title II to be able to respond to things that come up. And that's not only just the, it's not only just building new things. It would be anything that's not in compliance. We would need to be responsive to.
And I believe there's one person at the city who's designated as that. Is that correct?
I don't know who that would be.
Do you know, Noah?
Yeah, I don't know.
So that's something, if we could put that in our notes, Diane, we could ask,
Okay.
Mayor Steve just to check to see who the ADA compliance officer is, because like you said, it's a public entity, over 50 employees. So there would have to be someone designated, and we could ask that, maybe that person is designated to respond to issues such as that, so that there's someone to go to.
Yeah. And it could be, am I muted again? It could be different people under different umbrellas.
Sure.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be one person, but it does need to be that all of the roles are fulfilled.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the things that we had talked about last time that we had met, David, from my memory and from looking at the notes that I had.
There is nobody to my knowledge.
What did you say, Noah?
I think he said there's nobody to his knowledge.
Right.
There is nobody to my knowledge.
Yeah.
I wondered if there was somebody who did HR ADA things. I think I've heard that there might be somebody who does HR.
I just looked through our code, our Athens City codified ordinances, and I didn't really see anything in there with regard to a person or department that was responsible for that. So it doesn't seem to be in our codified ordinances.
Who's responsible for HR? Who oversees that?
That would be Ron Lucas.
So maybe, yeah, because there should minimally be somebody who handles that.
Yeah, and we're actually talking about two different things. You have Disabilities Act for individuals, and then for structures. So Ron would probably be more looking at the individuals, and if there are structures involved, it would probably be our department and Engineering and Public Works when they ever do any infrastructure improvements for actually the structural stuff itself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, it would be good to be clear who has the responsibilities at the city level, or just make sure somebody does.
Yeah, part of the issue here that we have in the city of Athens, and I'm trying to work on correcting that, is we currently don't have a building department. We're only zoning. If we actually had a building department, we would be able to better enact the ADA requirements, but that we have to give that to the state. The state won't let us do that. So that's the reason that we send that information to the state, is because we don't have a building department in the city as it stands right now.
Do we have the ability within what we send up to the state to say, when there's a contract done, that if something is found out of compliance, the people who are doing the building would be responsible for remedying it before it's completed?
That's exactly the case. The individual property owner is responsible for complying with ADA. The state building department is supposed to check to make sure that they've done that. So even if you went in and you everybody missed it, if we missed the requirements, and if the state missed the requirements and the ability, the property owner is still responsible to be ADA compliant to the requirements for reasonable accommodation. Did that make sense, or did I?
Yeah. So who goes back to the property owners then from the city?
Any individual could do that. They could go. They could go to the city. We actually probably would want to look at maybe modifying our codified ordinances to be able to enforce anything. We don't have that ability right now to enforce any of the issues that come up. Our response would have to be go to the state or the Department of Justice.
And as we know, at least with typically the Department of Justice ADA cases are, like, I think there's been like 18 in the last 4 years. Yeah. It's completely pointless to do that, especially on small issues.
On small stuff, yes, that's correct.
Right. Well, the city's been really responsive when we found things, but we're just trying to figure out how do we broaden that to the other kinds of things that are done. So when an individual comes to, like Jessica, I think she tries her best to make things better.
We sure did, yeah.
In the new projects we've been trying to build things in before it starts.
Yeah, that's great. And anything that has to do with a city building, the city's responsible for. It's how do you force a business or a commercial residential business to comply to ADA. That's where we start to fall down, because we don't really have any teeth to make that happen.
Right, which it ends up being lawsuits instead.
It ends up being lawsuits, yes, it does.
Right. So last year when you guys met in March, you had drafted some ideas or started to ways to help businesses know that ADA, that making things accessible was important for their business. Was there anything that happened after that?
I don't believe
it. What we've got is I came up with, and it's available on the ADA website, adacompliance.com, where it's basically a workbook for property owners, business people to understand what's required by the federal government to meet these 2010 ADA standards for accessible design. Reasonable compliance, it says what that is, defines what that is. I think it would be a great idea to start with something like that. So when we can have it. Davey, I don't remember, it's 25 pages, a little booklet. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was a little booklet. It was the readily accessible modifications. And I think we have a copy of that as well. And I think that's something that Diane and Noah, I think we're all pretty familiar with it.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great tool to use to give to businesses and people, property owners that don't understand ADA compliance. That it really tells them in a basic language, what they're required to do. So one of the things I think we could do is to try to make that available. We've got copies of it in our office, and if anybody has any questions, we distribute that to them. So I think that's a great tool for us.
Do you ever give it out proactively when you find out there's going to be something happening?
We do, yes.
So it's part of the process that when they say they're going to be making a change in a building, you give them that.
Yes, yeah.
And so, I think what happens is that a business owner or a building owner has so many different things going on in their mind. They have making payroll, making money, bringing in customers, et cetera, that often the accessibility ends up getting overlooked. And I think we could see that, with the Atomic Credit Union, or just how many businesses in the city of Athens don't have a single wheelchair accessible parking spot or ADA accessible parking spot. Yeah, so I think what one of the things that we're looking to do as a commission and as a committee is to find ways to keep that. I don't think it's because businesses are actively trying to discriminate, but it's
something gets overlooked. Yeah.
Aren't aware. They are aware, just like me. You tell me something, I'll remember it for a week, but then I forget it if someone doesn't talk to me again about it. So yeah, I'm just trying to think of ways to, to better like provide that education, but also to provide that follow up from our committee, but also from the city. One thing we had talked about is like sending out letters and then providing some follow up as well, especially when we notice issues, because if you send that full pamphlet to someone, they may look at it and be like, I wonder if I'm out of compliance with this. But if we just said, hey, if we send a letter that says, hey, we noticed that you're out of compliance with this. Here's some companies that would be able, some contractors that would be able to stripe your parking lot, who know what they're doing. Yeah, those were some ideas that we had thrown around.
So as I said, some communities actually have a ADA board or ADA coordinator that does that. I don't know if the city of Athens would be interested in moving in that direction. I know that it makes sense for bigger cities to have somebody like that. I'm not sure how well it works in a smaller community when we're doing. We wear a lot of hats in Athens, so. But yeah, I like that idea of having issues and then a follow-up. This would be not for like sidewalks and stuff. It would be basically for buildings. Is that what you're thinking, Davey?
Yeah, I think anything on that readily achievable barriers thing. So it could be an entrance. It could be a sidewalk outside. It could be just inaccessibility once you get inside. It could look like a lot of different things. But yeah, if there's like a one pager where we already have it written out with the opening and the closing, and then in the middle we just say, hey, reference page like 10, reference page 11, here's the issues. I think one thing that we probably struggle with is being a volunteer committee for the city of Athens, not having it just doesn't seem very like official. So one thing we were hoping is that maybe this gets sent out with, from Code Enforcement Office, but also from the Athens City Commission on Disabilities. So, we're here to help. We want to make Athens more accessible and make sure businesses are following current federal law and state law. And here's what needs to happen. Thank you. We'll follow up. Tiffany and Rob, does this make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and I want, obviously everyone's wearing multiple hats. People don't have like a lot of additional time. What would be like the easiest and most streamlined approach of doing this?
If we wanted it, we'd of course need to get the mayor's blessing on whatever we do. But if we could have your group, your committee, if you have issues, come up with it, get a letter prepped and ready to go, and we would be more than happy to mail that out on your behalf through either the code office or the ADA committee.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. We could send something over that already has like our signature on it. You would then add on your signature and say like, hey, we're here to help.
Yeah.
make this better. We can provide some additional feedback, guidance, and I think everyone just wants a more accessible city of Athens.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. You understand that we don't have any teeth, though, so we'd send the letter out, and if they ignored us, I wouldn't be able to do very much to follow up with that, just as long as everybody's aware of that. Unless and until we change the codified ordinance.
And I think people on this committee would be interested in that. Sorry, Diane, you're on mute.
What can we do to help change the codified orders?
The way you change codified ordinances is you would petition somebody from the city council to make changes. That would need to then be written by a council member. And then we go through a committee of council and be voted on by city council eventually. That does take some time to do, but it's something I think we should be working towards.
Okay.
So, David, work us through if we did have an ADA compliance board. What would they do? What would that look like, and what teeth would that give us?
Yeah, so in order to have...
The line working on is going to discuss code deeper and probably will modify ordinances. Part of the project line working on is going to discuss code deeper and probably will modify ordinances.
Great. So that's some of your work with
that. Yeah.
And then we might need to also identify a committee in council where we should be talking to them to start a conversation about this and see if we can find a champion there, like preferably the committee chair. But
yeah.
I'm not sure what committee it would be.
Do you have a thought on that, Noah?
Maybe planning commission. The Planning and Development Committee, I think it's called.
That might be,
Chris Fall's the chair.
Okay. Yeah, and Chris has, been involved in the past in various things that we've done. So, Noah, have you already talked to Chris about what you're working on? Because Diane, I was thinking that it might be a good idea for you to put into like a task for me into notes, just to say like, hey, or for me and Noah to follow up with Chris Fall and to say like, hey, we're thinking about this. We talked with David about it, and this is something that we'd like to discuss moving forward. Does that sound good, Noah? I was typing something out. Okay. Sorry, did you say everything you were going to say, David?
Yes. Yeah. The only thing you hear a little hesitation in my voice, and that's because I'm down 2 employees. So we're really, any additional work is going to be very difficult for us to do in a timely manner. So just be aware of that. I'm working with the mayor to try to get that corrected, but we had a retirement and then I had a transfer of staff. So I'm down 2 staff members right now, which really at this point puts us in a crunch. Again, that's not your problem. That's my problem. I have to deal with it. But that's my only hesitation is we're a little under the gun, a little pinched right now.
Absolutely. Okay. Just as a general question, David, I know generally the Athens city budget is, at least until like maybe another stimulus comes through for state and local governments, that the Athens city is pretty pinched budget-wise. Would that affect your department as well? Yes,
it does. Actually, my department is one of the few departments, I'm going to brag a minute, that it actually has a positive net income. So we generate more income to the city than we spend, which is a great thing. But but it's the general fund and not just my budget. So we end up having to get everybody involved, and that's the right thing to do. That's the correct thing to do. We're all on the same team. But we're all kind of being cautious, I guess would be the right way to say it.
How do you generate a positive net
There's two. I'm responsible for two funds. These are general fund. Well, one's a general fund and one's a enterprise fund. The solid waste. I'm responsible for the solid waste fund now, 760, and we have a couple of folks that are solid waste officers, and if people don't follow the codified ordinances, we have the ability to write warnings and tickets that have a income associated with those. So trash tickets creates an income stream that typically exceeds the cost of the staff that we have. And then for our rental permits, we have a program where we do all of our rental inspections, and that generates some income as well for the city.
Huh. Okay.
I'm putting a committee together with a lot of city officials.
Great.
No, is it an ADA committee?
Not exactly.
Okay. Yeah, and I saw an email I think last week, Noah, about some of the work, and you did mention doing some codified law changes. So yeah, it sounds like, you know, that working in conjunction with this and everything else, we're all kind of moving towards the same goal. Okay. And so what we want to do is kind of put together a proposal. It would be a letter that starts with kind of explaining what we're doing. That the middle paragraph is what changes a place would need to make to follow the ADA, or to make those easily doable changes, and saying that there's additional resources and ways to go about that. And then the last is just like, we're here to support you. Please get in touch. We would both sign it, send it off. We would then kind of follow up afterwards.
I just wanted to hop in very quickly and ask too, the booklet, David, that you all hand out to folks, when's the last time that's been read over? Does it need to be checked to see if any updates need to be done? That sort of thing too. Oh, yeah. You're muted, David. Sorry.
Everybody does that at least once, right?
Yeah.
That booklet actually comes from the federal government, ADA compliance.com. We actually downloaded it direct from their website and printed it out, make it available.
Okay. And just to clarify, sometimes those do get changed from those websites. So when's the last time that it was like a fresh download? Is it every time that you need to do it, or whenever?
No, we printed out several a year ago. So if there's been any updates in the last 12 months or 14 months, I guess, we would have to update that. But I'm looking here and I don't see that doesn't look like they've made. I don't see any changes that they've made to this document.
What is the date of the document that you have, David?
Look here, hold on. You don't see a date on it.
Yeah, I see one that's on ada.gov that's from 1995.
Yeah, I don't see a date on the document that I've got. And that's odd because, you know, that the standard came out in 2010, I believe. The new standards came out in 2010.
It is odd, but it's also not totally odd because of the amount of money and resources that goes into ADA compliance on the federal level.
Let me see if I can find that for you. I'll get back with you on it. I don't have the date of that document or the any kind of time frame for that document. I'll follow up and get back with you guys.
Okay. Great.
Awesome. Davey, is it, and Diane, I guess this goes to you too, is it possible that once David finds that, gets us that information, we can put that link in the notes too? That way we can just have that record.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think I found one that says final from 2019. So that may be, and once it finishes downloading, I can even share it to make sure that that's the right one. Or if you want to share what you have, David. You're on mute.
Sorry, that's twice in this meeting. Yeah, let me see if I can find that. I'll actually, what I ought to do is look on our in our office to see what if it has anything, but I don't have access to that right now.
I had a thought too. Davey, I think when you did this letter draft last time, you started to put in some common kinds of issues that might be there. That might be easier to start with and then refer them to the document for more details on how to correct something. But I think just saying, go see this 42-page document would be hard for businesses.
Yeah.
Exactly. I agree, Diane. I don't know that they would go through and necessarily read it very thoroughly either.
Yeah. And if we're able just to say, see page 41, here's what it says, but look at it, I think that's better.
Yeah, we can add that into the letter that we put out.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding it. If you're able to send it out to us, David, what you use, that would be great. I know that you did in the past, so I could also look. So in terms of next steps, so it sounds like, no, we can check in after this meeting and figure out when your committee is going to be meeting. Maybe get some other people involved who maybe aren't involved yet, if that's the case, especially on a city council level, because it sounds like that would be a step. Because we don't want to do something that doesn't make sense or just adds more time to people's workloads that doesn't achieve what we're looking to achieve. We're trying to make this a smart and nimble kind of project where we can just get the things done that we want to get done. You just muted, Diane.
I saw that Arian is stepping down from the city council. I wonder if whoever the new person is would be a good contact for us to connect with. Because aren't they required to have somebody from the city council be on the commission?
Yes. And Erin's still got like a year.
Oh, she does. So she might be the person.
Yeah, I think she might be another person that would be good to be involved. Yeah,
she's just not running for re-election. Sorry. For re-election, which is the fall.
Okay.
And Pete Kotsis as well is retiring too. He's not running for re-election either. Those are the two I'm aware of right now. Pete's at large and isn't connected with the planning committee or us in any way, I don't think. But he was on transportation or chair of the transportation committee though.
Yeah. David, one other question. Some of the things that we've noticed in terms of just city design is that often, once like I'm back out in the community again after COVID, that the we had been tossing around ideas of having scooter parking, especially on some of and bicycle parking covered nice where people actually put their bikes instead of putting them in the way. How would that be addressed, or how is that best handled?
So we've had some discussions about this for both the bicycle parking areas and the scooters. And scooters is new for us, and as community, we always end up with something that we didn't expect coming, and scooters was one of them. One of the things that I've been talking to the mayor about is requiring the scooter company or companies, because now we've got a couple that are interested in being in the city, is to have a scooter hub, or you're not allowed to park the scooters except in this hub area, and it actually recharges when you put it in there. So we're trying to work with the university, because we have to do this together. We're trying to work with the university to see if we can't require these businesses that do the e-scooters and the e-bikes. They're talking about an e-bike coming to the city of Athens, to have a hub location so that they're not scattered all over the sidewalk and people are unable to get through. We know that's a problem. We've been trying to address it, and this is a good solution. I hope we can move forward with it.
So the other thing along this line that just happened is the governor just signed legislation which changes the laws regarding scooters. So I haven't read it yet. I'm not sure exactly what changed, but it could affect some of these issues. We just need to make sure we know what's going on with that. I'm trying to pull it up now and look at it, but it'll take a while to assess it and see if there's anything that I imagine it gives municipalities a little more flexibility with enforcement and things like that, maybe, but maybe some restrictions as well.
Yeah, the last change that the state did for the scooters was to open it up so the scooters were really not responsible for a lot of stuff to make it. They were actually help the scooter industry out. So they might be pushing it back the other way too, Rob. I don't know. I'll have to look myself.
And so, I think, are there any other questions for code enforcement? I know I'd like to just schedule you to come back in April or May, and that way we can maybe have our letter down. We could get approval from the mayor's office to go ahead, and I would like to just start off with a couple of businesses that would be simple, that they would even agree to work with us, and just see how the process goes. That would be my goal for this.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to come back and talk with everybody. I enjoy your company.
Hey, great. We do too.
Remotely, right?
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Any other questions before we cut David loose? All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, David. And we appreciate you coming and kind of brainstorming and putting some of these thoughts into actions. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. See you.
All right. See you later. So let's take a look at the rest of the agenda. So I think just something that we can continue to do is to review our goals and see, where we're at on that. So, we want to work with schools, diversity, inclusion, using readily available improvements as well. I would like to just take a moment to talk about maybe recruiting 2 or 3 additional people for our committee that would maybe lend some different perspectives and some diversity to our group. And I think, Diane, you had maybe someone had mentioned someone to me that might be good, right? You don't have to say their name out loud. And
I don't remember right now. Did I have somebody in mind? I don't remember.
Oh, you know what? I think it was someone else. I think it was Anna Corpy had mentioned someone who was a recent high school graduate.
That wasn't me.
Okay. So that's someone that I've I think, send an email out to, I believe, or asked for some more information about. But I think if anyone has some additional people who would maybe, it would be great to have some more perspective about like visual impairments, deaf or hard of hearing, any sort of intellectual or other developmental disability is always great to have represented. So, yeah, as we move forward, if you have someone in mind that you think, may make a good committee member, we would love for them to join.
I thought we asked JW to join us.
We asked JW to join us for that specific. Yeah, I think he's willing to come on if we're discussing like some streetscaping projects. I don't think he has the time to come to every. I think he's already on a different committee and wants to focus his time there, unless we have some specific questions for him.
He's on at least 2 other ones.
Yeah, but yeah, I think. JW may know of some other people who would be good additions to us.
Right.
And yeah, I think one thing that we could do is make a Facebook posting that says, hey, like we're working with city officials, we're trying to make Athens more accessible. Who wants to join us, especially people who have diverse experiences with accessibility.
That's a great idea.
Okay. And then secondarily, one thing that I had in my head that I don't know that's on the agenda is one major specific project that I would like to work with the city on getting done are curb cuts in Uptown, just to get those level with the street so they're not so dangerous. And we talked with Jessica Aldine on our last meeting. Does anyone remember what we need to do in order? Did we already provide her with enough information, or do we need to provide her with more?
My sense was we gave the general list that we came up with, and that talked about it. If there are specific ones, they also probably won't be making big changes unless they're in the projects that they have. Unless we say, you need to add this to your project list, and then it will be a couple of years before it would get addressed.
Yeah, I would like to go ahead and do that and send Jessica that email to say, hey, can we, just get the concrete grinders and just grind these down so that they're accessible.
That's a good idea.
That's not the structural changes are a much bigger deal, but just making them not have lips. And then
maybe it's even something we could recommend the city does every year. They just go through and review sidewalks or every 2 years and grinds, because they always shift over time anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Rob, we had talked a little bit about the new app that the city is using to report issues. Have you heard any more about what that is looking like?
I haven't heard any critique of it, but I've been mostly watching it on the desktop. So I've got it set up where you can set like an alert when anytime there's something posted in an area of interest, it'll let you know and send you an email. So I've been getting those, and then I click on those and look at where they are and that kind of thing. But it seems to be working pretty well. There's been a lot of people using it. I don't think I've seen anything accessibility-wise as far as things submitted at this point. Mostly it's been about trash and graffiti and potholes and things like that, which is pretty typical, I think.
Yeah.
The app itself, I've used some, but I haven't really tried to assess how easy it is to use or any critiques like that yet. So
What's the name of it again?
Click C Fix or C Click Fix, probably. Let me see. Hold on. I get that backwards. I think I said it wrong last time.
C Click Fix.
I wonder if we could ask Claire's committee to do a Facebook something about promoting it.
I think that's a good idea. Apparently, I've already downloaded this place.
And the app is branded for Athens, so you can't see that because I got a background on here. Let's see if I stop my video. No, how do I do that? How do I change the background now that I've already started? That's a good question. Maybe over here. There we go. Turn off the background. And then turn it back on. Okay, so the app is branded for the city. So it is that kind of thing where it's customized for the city. But how easy it is to use and things like that, I haven't really tried to critique yet. It says there's 47 issues that have been fixed at this point, and let's see, requests, and it has map interface. That's a Google map, and it's sort of similar in this respect to the old map, in that you can see points on a map and click on them and get information about those and zoom in and that kind of stuff. And then a button to submit something is using your GPS on your phone, like the old app did too. It seems this is a little more accessible, easy to use, but I'm not an expert on that by any means, so it might be good to assess that before we put out official information about it and try and promote it. Maybe it would be good to at least use it a little bit. We could do that as part of this committee and have a half an hour session where we all try using it. We could just do it from where we're sitting even, or if you wanted to, you could be out, potentially outside, trying to use it. And just get a feel for how it works, and if maybe even if there's critique or feedback, to give the city feedback if it's needed.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and maybe we could get that rolling in the spring. I just want to keep it on our radar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was just looking at the app on my phone, and it does look maybe more accessible. So we could kind of do some similar things to what we've done in the past.
The city has also said that this platform is easier to modify, so they can make changes to it more easily, and it supports that kind of. The old application didn't really have the ability to do much with that, and they had sort of stopped developing new features and new things for it, whereas this platform is currently a live platform. It will continue to evolve over time. So.
Okay, great. We're butting right up against our 1 o'clock stop time. Are there any announcements or any final things that we need to take care of?
I guess just as a follow-up to that idea, once we sort of do an assessment and maybe put together information to get the word out, I could also be interested, once the pandemic is to the point where we could do face-to-face things again. We could do something like this socially distanced, but to have another walk and roll audit, maybe if it's just even to teach people how to use the app, if they need that assistance, I'd be willing to do that. Or we could do something that is more specifically an actual audit. So we can think about that. I'd definitely be willing to do that again once we can safely do it.
That sounds great. I think those have been so successful over this past year and even the year before. It's been really great, Rob. Thanks for leading those.
Welcome.
Anything else? Do you have anything, Noah, before we close? All right. Well, we will go ahead and close out our accessibility committee meeting for January. I think our next one is I believe it's February 11th. Yes, February 11th.
Okay.